Welcome. Sit back and enjoy as we dive deeper down into the rabbit hole. Where the paranormal becomes normal.
Hello, and welcome to today's show, where I'm joined by my amazing co-hosts, Nicole and Daryl. Sorry, I'm only messing about. And an amazing guest, and we've only been chatting for what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes before this, and the stuff that he's going to be talking about is going to blow your mind. I'm already blown away. I'm so excited to do this show. It's just wow. So welcome to the show, Drew. Really do appreciate it. I'll give you a little insight into Drew, and then he's going to start the beginning from where he was to where he is at this present time. So this is Drew Bankey, a remarkable individual who embodies a deep commitment to service and spiritual well-being. As a veteran, he dedicated himself to protecting his country and serving others. Transitioning into a new chapter of his life, Drew found his calling as a medicine man, using his expertise to help others heal and find their inner peace. So welcome to the show, Drew. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Is it
pleasure.
evening time over there? What is this? The evening time over there right now?
Just on 8:30. Sun's just starting to set, so it's good. It's a good time.
Here.
Yeah, you still got all day. Still got all day.
1:30 here, right in the middle of the day.
Oh.
It's about 87 degrees outside right now.
Oh, we're about 50, if that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're probably right in the 80s.
Daryl?
Cool.
84.
Wow.
Well, thanks for
Daryl
having me.
doesn't know. He doesn't go outside. He's not allowed.
I don't even know what 10 degrees.
Oh, yeah. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. So, Drew, you was going to say you're going to start pretty much at the very beginning from being a kid to present day.
Yeah, so my story starts, April 11th, 1980, when I was born. And for the first 5 days of my life, I was Joshua Brandon Robinson. And then I was adopted. So then I was Andrew Roy Bankey. And so much like the rest of my life, I've always seemed to be like changing and evolving into almost like a different person. It started from birth, me unknowingly, that happening. I didn't actually find out I was adopted till I was just before 18, just like a couple of days before I turned 18. Wow. I found out I was adopted. So that was my first big trauma. It was very, had a lot of questions, obviously, trust issues and abandonment issues, everything come up, and at the age of 19, I went into the military, went into the Army Reserves boot camp, and come back from there. And then shortly thereafter went to the police academy, and then I become a police officer. So I was a police officer I was actually a police officer before I turned 21. So
oh, wow.
I got a badge and a gun like a couple weeks before I turned 21.
Before you could even drink legally.
Yeah, before I could even drink, I had a badge and everything and out there on patrol. Yeah. Wow. And fast forward to, and then, 9/11 happened while I was a police officer. I remember I was just got off shift. I had a night shift. I was in bed sleeping maybe 2 or 3 hours, and my girlfriend at the time woke me up and told me that, something happened, and I turn on the TV, and before I could turn on TV, my phone started ringing. And we had, for the next couple months, it was like a really crazy time for law enforcement and everything.
Yeah.
And I was still in the Army Reserves at that time, and ended up going active duty in 2005, and then did my first deployment. With the Like a couple months after I went active duty, I found myself in Baghdad, and um,
Jeez.
just really surreal experience. And that deployment, I was armor taxi for high ranking officials, and um, even famous people that were coming in for like USO tours, like famous singers and actors and
Yeah.
actresses and stuff that would come to like visit the troops. We would pick them up from the airport and transport them to the different bases where they were going and performing, whatever. And so we're just basically an armored taxi, and didn't see much combat, but uh, went back home. And in 2006, I went through Special Forces training, the first phase of Army Special Forces training. I didn't get selected, so I didn't get to continue that,
Right.
and went back to my unit, and that unit ended up going to Iraq, and that was at the beginning of 2007. And then we got extended while we were there, so we were there until 15 months, that deployment, and that was in Western Iraq during the surge and everything. And we operated in around Ramadi, Fallujah, and Baghdad. Did missions, training Iraqi police and Iraqi army, training Iraqi special forces. Uh, that deployment, I worked in conjunction, did missions with Navy SEALs, CIA, and other different agencies around the world,
Wow.
doing different missions, and just seeing considerably amount different than my first deployment. It was
Just
and
a little bit more stuff going on.
and I went through a divorce from my first wife while I was there. We were
Wow.
separated, and that was a big stressor too. So,
Yeah.
and come back from there. Ended up getting out in 2009. Went to a different unit and started training um, some guys that were just out of basic, and then we got orders to go back to Iraq again, and I ended up given the choice to get out and not, and from a back surgery,
Yeah.
and they're like, you can't be in the field anymore, but you'd be behind a desk and everything. And at that time, I was like, that's not what I wanted to do, and I just got out. So from
Yeah.
2009 to 2014 was a lot of drinking, drug use, uh, you know, relationship problems with my ex-wife, and all that. It's just a
Yeah.
lot of just the normal stuff, back and forth of
Yeah.
life, and coming back and trying to integrate from that 15 months, which, that was it was a hard transition coming back after that deployment,
Yeah.
because everything was just so foreign, and I lived by a different set of rules for so long, and then coming back to the States, it was hard integrating.
Yeah.
And so 2014 was a suicide attempt. Woke up in the ER after I took a 200 Xanax, snorted a
Wow.
bunch of cocaine, and really was determined this was going to be it. There
Yeah.
was there was thoughts and plans and stuff like that before, but this time was really going to be it.
Like
I
the
was
one.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, it was going to be the one. And I woke up in the ER, and I just knew at that moment, like everything that I had going for me at that moment. I had a business I was starting. I had some investors that I had a 12,000 square foot warehouse in Fort Wayne, Indiana, that was being renovated, and new office equipment was being put in for
Yeah.
this business I was starting up. And when all this happened, and I just knew that it was all going to get worse. And, I lost that business, and all those connections, just uh, that was the first thing to go. Then lost my car, my house, and everything. And not too long after that, when I was starting to rebuild like who I was, and I met my wife now, and yeah, we hit it off right away, and yeah, we just hit it off right away and been together ever since.
Wow.
But fast forward to 2016. So 2014, that suicide attempt, it got the VA's attention and everything. And then I went through a bunch of testing, and it come to find out like all the stuff that I experienced in Iraq affected me mentally a lot.
Right.
I had, depression and stuff like that from being adopted, but the this everything that happened in Iraq just kind of heightened it all, just
Yeah, like
brung everything to
change
the
your
surface.
lifestyle, I suppose, as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's not normal human behavior, is it, to live in a situation like that?
No, I mean, just every day, driving down the road, when we would drive down the road in Iraq in a convoy, all the cars would just, if there was any civilian cars, they would just pull over to the
Yeah.
side of the road real quick, and people would throw their hands out of the windows and shit. Like, it was just, and then you come back home and it's like, okay, there's traffic laws. You got to stop at a light. Like you go
Yeah.
15 months and don't have to stop at an intersection. Like, it's just
Yeah.
a different, just that one thing. And there's a million other things, that a lot of people don't ever want to talk about, but it's just a different, it's surreal.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can put it. It's just surreal.
Well, like you
And
said, it didn't phase, it didn't blend in. It was like one day you're doing just going. The next day, change.
yeah, I remember coming
Almost
home, with a bunch of us went out to the bar, and the night we got home, and I think my divorce was almost final at that point, or well into it, and so all the single guys went out to the bar that first night. So
Yeah.
literally, we were in Baghdad, Iraq, 36 hours before that, and now we were on Bourbon Street in downtown Savannah, Georgia, with 100 bars that are that, and everybody knows that they can spot that people had just got back from Iraq, and there's, it's just a recipe for disaster. People ain't drank in 15 months, and
Yeah.
a lot of testosterone, but it was just, for me, it was, especially getting back that second deployment, it was just crazy for me. It took me a while to like process, like, okay, I was just here, on the other side of the planet and in a totally different reality than I am now. And that was hard for me to process, but yeah. So PTSD, was found out from that suicide attempt. Fast forward to 2016. Me and my wife, Ella, were, not married yet. I don't know. We weren't married yet. And, but we were living together, and I just felt I couldn't get, no matter what I was doing, all the VA therapy, all the prescription therapy and everything that I was getting from the VA wasn't doing anything. And I could just feel like this suicide, like bug, like sneak up on me again. I could feel it. And I was like, I knew I had to do something. And about that time, a guy that I knew, the veteran, had just got back from Peru, done a couple ayahuasca ceremonies down there, and he wouldn't stop talking about how much it changed him. I could just tell, he sounded like a different person. His voice was different. His whole, his everything was different about him. And that triggered me to start looking at ayahuasca. And I spent months, looking at peyote ceremonies, ayahuasca ceremonies, this, that, and the other. And basically what I was finding, I couldn't afford to go to ayahuasca ceremony because they were all in South America.
Right.
And my wife, she ended up finding a church and booked us, and she come to me and she's like, we got to start a diet. We're going to go to this church and do ayahuasca in 6 weeks. It's here in the States. And just get ready. And we had this whole list of things that we had to do, and foods that we had to stop eating and all this stuff. And went and did those 2 ceremonies, and the second ceremony just blasted me wide open. It showed me a spirit world that I didn't know existed, and which in turn, like, opened up a lot of questions, and my mind just wandered of possibilities really after that. And and then experiences started happening after that. It started with like coincidences, number sequences a lot, or then I started having like dreams that become reality, like deja vu moments that were that I could remember from dreams. And fast forward to here, I normally have, when it's something I need to know or something that the universe wants me to know, I have a dream, and I I'd be pretty lucid in the dream and pretty much know that I'm in the dream.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally get that.
Mhm.
So that's who I am.
Do you know what? I'm so, I don't want to sound patronizing, but so happy for you that you are where you are now. Going through all that, I don't think I could have got for a quarter of, probably more than that. I'd have struggled, definitely. And
Yeah.
to sit here and talk about it like this takes some balls, it really does. So
I
thank you,
I
really appreciate it.
I just reflected on it the other day, and I thought about, because the anniversary of like my suicide attempt is coming up, so it'd be 10 years, right at 10 years. And I was
Wow.
reflecting at everything that's happened over the past 10 years. I got remarried. I got two kids. I have four
Yeah.
kids altogether. But I have two kids that happened within this past 10-year time frame.
Yeah.
I published two books. I was on a reality show. I've done
Wow.
over 100 interviews on spirituality, and just basically share my story and stuff. And there's other things that's happening. I'm just doing this podcast today. I'm about to get on a
Yeah.
plane tomorrow, go to New
Yeah.
York, and do a big podcast in Connecticut on Sunday. So yeah, it's just reflecting on that was just very proud for me, and
Yeah.
I'm happy that I get to share my story, because maybe there's someone out there was at the point, what I was at in 2014, and just coming out of a suicide attempt, and thinking, their life is over, and they can't rebuild. I hope that I give some people hope.
100%, definitely. So much respect for you for what you went through and coming out the other end, and like I said, and sharing it with everyone. It's
It's my honor. It's everything that's happened since 2014 has been a blessing. That's
yeah.
I've been blessed and blessed. Just they keep getting. I never. They keep getting bigger.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say,
there's-
do you feel like you'll have something go on? It's like it can't get any better than this, and then whether it's a couple of hours, a couple of days later, it's like, oh, it can.
yeah, it's. I don't know. The universe always has a way of keeping things interesting, and
Definitely. Yeah.
that's. I think I went through a lot of the valleys. Life is about hills and valleys.
Yeah.
And if you can equal those out a little bit and make them a little flatter, make the valleys a little less deep, and the hills into mountains or something, where you can really soar into
Yeah.
like different things. You know, I talk about manifestation and how energy works and things like that, and all types of things in my books and in my speeches. And I think now I'm starting to prove that in my existence by, manifesting. If I knew how energy worked and all that, like, then I should be able to manifest success in my life and abundance for my family and stuff like that in a good way. Not excessive abundance, like to the point where people start getting, you know, the wealth bug and stuff like that, but having abundance enough to where we can, live and have a pretty free life.
Yeah.
And it's happening for me. And I think that just plays in more to the testament of what's possible if you set your mind to it. And and once I figured out what ayahuasca could do and psychedelics could do and things like that, I really started exploiting them and trying to and pushing them and seeing how far I could really go. And it always turned me back around. Like okay, I'd go into ayahuasca ceremony and say I want to go explore, or I want this question answered or whatever, and I end up going within in myself and finding something that made me sad that I didn't remember, from a kid. Maybe
Yeah.
I got one less Christmas present, at Christmas or something like that, and
Yeah.
it affected me all the way into adulthood. And ayahuasca would dig that out and make me like sort through that. So I quickly realized like the way to expand myself consciously was to focus on my own healing and to get really real with myself and really, really raw with myself about what was hurting me, what was holding me back. And,
Yeah.
that was only rewarded with knowledge, download knowledge and surprise, intuition abilities and things like that.
Yeah.
Coming online. That was the byproduct of me going into my own healing. And it eventually led me to found the church. Me and Ella founded this church in 2020, Sacred Journeys Within, and
Yeah.
we run retreats with psychedelics now, with everybody from uh, professors, business owners, pharmacists. We have a pharmacist that's on our board of directors.
Yeah.
He's for the Sacred Journeys Within, and yeah, we have all walks. A lot of veterans, spouses, family members, things like that, and yeah, and public speaking. I do a lot of public speaking, so that's where my shift is kind of going now, from doing so many ceremonies to more public speaking. And
Yeah.
um, I feel that I can affect more people by than having them out for a retreat. So
Yeah. So when you start getting into this side of it with the retreat and public speaking, did you pre-plan any of it, or did it just, like you were saying, you was getting answers from the universe? Was it just like, this is what I need to do next, then I need to do that? Was it like that, or was it like pre-written?
Pretty much. It all started with my third ceremony with ayahuasca. So I did the first two Friday, Saturday night. The first one was just horrible. I was in the bathroom a lot. I didn't even throw up. I was just, basically had flu symptoms in the bathroom for
Wow.
the whole night. Wretched pain, no vision, nothing. The next morning, like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, they do like an integration circle, what they call it. So everybody comes out and sits around and shares their experience. So it goes around, and I'm like one of the last people, and I'm hearing just all these beautiful experiences, magical experiences, otherworldly, and they get to me, and I'm just like, I didn't see nothing. I felt like I was gonna die. And honestly, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do the second night. You guys keep the money. And they talked me into staying that second night, and the second night was 20 minutes after I drank the first cup of ayahuasca. I felt like basically I felt like I took my last breath, felt like I was dying.
Wow.
And went through the whole ego death, and went through the tunnel, went through a life review, saw all the lives that at that time I perceived them as past lives. Now I see them more as like dimensional spaces or vibrational spaces. In that context. But at that time, I perceived them as past lives, and there were just thousands of them. And at the end of this tunnel was the spirit of ayahuasca and the spirit of cannabis. So I met both those spirits, and we talked for a minute, and she's like, you had the spirit of ayahuasca is like, you had enough. This is enough for you. Like, just know that we exist. We've been here forever. And, and we'll be talking soon. And I'm like, when are we going to be talking again? And she's like, as soon as you're ready, you come back. So the next weekend I went and did another ceremony. And and that third ceremony, the medicine man was talking about like what really focus on your intention, whatever question that you really have. And I was like, what question do I really have? And it's like, why am I here? Like, why am I here on this planet? Why do I exist?
Yeah.
the existential question, and I was like, screw it. I'm gonna put that question in the machine,
Yeah.
And so as I'm drinking the cup, that's all I'm thinking about. It's like, why am I here? Why am I here? And it was a daytime ceremony, so it was like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning in Florida, and I think it was around this time, June or something it was
Yeah.
around this time because the memories just come up. The 8-year memory of me drinking ayahuasca for the first time just come up on Facebook. But the other day, so that I was walking, I was not walking, I was sitting on the ground, and this ant crawled up on my hand. It bit my hand, and I went to smack it. And as I went to smack it, something like stopped my arm, like an invisible force. Like
Yeah.
literally, I felt it grab my wrist, and a voice came in my head that says, "You have a choice to make right now, and this is how you can like change your trajectory of where you're going. Because this is, if you kill this ant, you're going to continue down the same path that you have, the same mindset, or you could give it compassion, and realize that it was scared and put it down and change the perspective of that one ant and that one living being. Even just changing that perspective of that one living being is going to change a lot of things in the universe."
Yeah.
And so I was like, it's a very distinct, very clear like voice in my head, And so I put the ant down, and as soon as I put the ant down, the ant took like 2 steps, and I went like my conscious went from myself and it went into that ant.
Oh.
And I felt at that moment, I felt how much it meant to the ant that I did that, how much it changed its perspective, and what it was going to go back and tell others, communication with other ants, however they talk. It was going to share that experience with others. It was going to spread through the colonies and through ants and stuff about that story, that experience. Like it bit a human that was way bigger than itself, just trying to protect its territory or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was let go in compassion. And so I walked like that for a few seconds, and then my conscious went back in myself, and I said, and I asked, I'm like telecommunicating with this, probably ayahuasca or whatever, the universe, whatever it was I was talking to at that point. But I said, what is that the point of all this? Like, am I supposed to, is me just changing the lives of animals or something like that? I can't remember exactly what I perceived it as.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, like you need to open your mind and like see like what we're trying to show you. You're supposed to do this with humans. And it said, oh, I'm supposed to like change a few people's minds by interacting with them in my life. And it lit up every ant that was in the yard. It lit up like neon green in the
Wow.
yard. And there was millions of them. It said, no, this is how many lives you will be affecting in your lifetime.
Jeez.
And and then I threw up.
I was gonna say, when it's showing you that, did it like that's a lot of work? I'm gonna be doing a lot of work.
I just once it clicked to me what it was trying to show me, and I had I threw up, and while I was throwing up, I was having a vision of me on a podium, and I was speaking to like 20,000 people, like a whole stadium of people.
Wow.
And my voice of what I was speaking of, I could see it at the vibration of it, and it was going past some people, and it was going into other people's ears, and I could see like them start to glow, like things like their chakra system light up, things like that. But some of the people, I could see it go right past them. And what it was showing me is like, you need to speak your truth, and don't worry about like who's going to hear it. Don't focus on if someone's going to hear it or if they're not. Just speak your truth. It's going to reach the people it's meant to get reach, and it's going to flow right past the people it's not. And don't worry about it. And it was just teaching me all these things. It's what I talked about in the pre-show of, I was in high school, I was afraid to get up in front of class and give my give my reports or whatever for different classes or whatever. I couldn't do it. I would lock up.
Yeah.
And for the spirits to be like, one of your biggest fears is what your actual mission is here. And it's basically articulate the word of source or the vibration of source, and that goes past God, both capital G and lowercase g. It goes way past that. It's just source, and that's what I was shown I would be speaking for, and the vibration that would be matched with. And I channeled a few things for a while. In my books, I talk about my process of channeling different beings and things like that. But eventually I just started channeling source, and then I stopped channeling it. I just kind of speak for and, live as. And
Yeah, it just becomes part of what you are.
yeah, I'm not saying that I am source. I'm saying I'm part of source, and so is everything around me. I'm not saying I'm the one. I'm definitely living a separate experience of Drew. And I was Andy at one time. When I was in grade school, I was Andy. And then when I went to the military, I didn't like that. So I remember when I first got to my duty station, they're like, "What do you go by?" And Andy was like part of my growing up, and I just felt like I changed, and especially after finding out I was adopted. I guess I just changed, and I was Drew ever since. So yeah, so it's just weird how it's funny how the world works, and you're reaching out for the show. So I see everything as connection, and I'm always looking for the clues of why things happen.
Yeah. But can I just ask you, like, when you threw up after the ant bit you and that, and previous to that, when you'd done the ceremony and you had like the flu-like symptoms, do you think that was, let's say, the source was getting rid of all the negativity, or the, not saying the dark side, but the bad stuff, the trauma that you'd gone through from being a child? Do you think it was like pushing it out of you so you'd be more pure, so that you could then progress and do this for other people? Because the way I see it, if you still got a bit of that, the darkness inside you, you're not going to be at the right level to pass it on to other people.
Yeah. I think it works backwards, from your least traumatic event, and as you go through the process more and more, you start to get deeper and deeper into, what's holding you back.
Yeah.
I've just recently, probably over the last 6 months, had an experience where I did a ceremony for myself with Bufo 5-MeO DMT, and laid back in a hot tub and closed my eyes. And you don't 5-MeO DMT, you don't tend to travel very often or have visuals, but I went back completely. I couldn't see it, but my consciousness was transported back to the moment that I arrived in the operating room. And I remember doctors and nurses talking in the background about me being adopted, and it imprinted on my being. And that's it took me all the way. I'm 44 years old now, so it took me all the way to 44. It took me 44 years of digging to get to that point of digging that out. And that was one of the biggest things that ever happened for me. In ceremony.
Yeah.
And one of the most transformative, but it was very real. And I was able to find a lot of forgiveness, on a lot of things, just by going back through that moment. And forgiveness that I didn't even know I had. I had a lot of stuff, a lot of emotions wrapped up around that moment that I didn't even know I had. I didn't even, obviously I you're taking your first breaths, you wouldn't think that you have memory of that, but you have a cellular memory of that. If you look in Dr. Emoto's work, it talks about the secret of water, and he's done and shown through scientific research that water reacts to both positive and negative vibration. If you haven't looked that up, Dr. Emoto, The Secret of Water or whatever. But if you can understand that, you can understand like we are mostly water. Our bodies are made out of, mostly water, 70-80% water.
Yeah,
That's
it's
that's
about
in
80%, isn't it?
that's in a slightly different form. But if
Yeah.
the findings from Dr. Emoto on water are true, that means that they're also true for the human body. So
Yeah.
positive and negative vibration affects the human body. And, I've been preaching this and talking about this in podcasts for years and not really understanding how deeply that was true until I had that experience. So, I can't thank the medicines enough, the ayahuasca and bufo and peyote and all these different ceremonies that I've done, the sun dance, the non psychedelic ceremonies that I've done and things like that, sweat lodge. I've have I brought little nuggets of truth and peace from each one of those moments, and it's done me good. It's never, it may feel bad at the moment, it might be puking or perceived it might be a bad trip or things like that. But I've come to find out that you never have a bad trip. Those things really don't happen. Everything does have an answer that does have a meaning to it.
Yeah.
Were you like worried or nervous at all before you did your first ceremony about what was going to come up?
Not really, because I was at the point of giving up, so it didn't matter.
Yeah,
It was
nothing to
either this,
lose.
it was either this or that. It was either I felt like if this didn't work, if something didn't take a major intervention on something, like I was gonna at least try again, and eventually I would succeed, at suicide, and that was the raw truth of it. So, I knew about this. I knew about the spirituality side of ayahuasca, but I didn't know about it. I read about it, but I had no idea like what it could be like and how real it was. So my main focus was trying to save my life by drinking ayahuasca for the first couple times, and then it turned into, man, there's a whole infinite world of truths, and it's I started asking the right questions at the right times to the medicine, and it just started showing me more and more and more. And you know, um, the universe put the right people in my life, and met some really cool teachers, from all over the world, working with different ceremonies and traditions and things like that. And you know, I things happened around them, like they saw me in ceremony too. So there's things that they saw about me that come up that they saw. And yeah. So and yeah, the UFO things and everything that started. Um I don't know. I can't really tell you when. Maybe when I moved out to Crestone, in 2017. We moved out to Crestone, Colorado.
Yeah.
And soon after that, I think within a few days of us moving out here, we had some strange experiences in the sky. I know when we first moved, Crestone is in the San Luis Valley. It's in southern Colorado. It's about an hour north from where I'm at right now. That away for everybody, for me at least. But yeah, so it's a spiritual town. They got retreat centers, they got ashrams, they got stupas, they got 28 different retreat centers there. They got a peyote church, all types of things. It's pretty common to drive around and see someone at a sweat lodge in someone's backyard, or a teepee in someone's backyard, that type of thing. They got earth ships there. It's that type of really different community, but a spiritual community. We lived there and rented there for a few years and did a lot of ceremonies. Experienced a lot of things. Some of the most craziest times were like ceremonies that didn't have any psychedelics, like a Uwipi ceremony. It's where I met Bigfoot for the first time.
Wow.
In a closed room, doors locked, windows locked, sheets, blankets over the windows, and just songs are sung, nothing ingested. and things happen where it rains. There's lightning storms that happen inside. You know, I met Bigfoot. I've been bumped by a buffalo inside there and stuff. So it's like almost like a seance. It's a Native American seance. It's called a Yuwipi ceremony. Yuwipi for people who want to look it up. Or if you want to look up Chief Black Elk or Black Elk Speaks, you can look that up, Google it anywhere, and you can find information about the Yuwipi. And it dates all the way back to Neanderthals. They found evidence that the Neanderthals was doing this ceremony way back. And it's a combination of tones and intention that basically opens up a portal for higher dimensional beings to manifest in 3D form. And,
wow.
Participated in 3 of those, had pretty crazy experiences each time. One of the times it was a shared experience with me and the person beside me. Both witnessed the Bigfoot and some other things that happened in that ceremony. So I talk about more in detail in my books. A selfless shout out to myself on Amazon.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but yeah, just crazy experiences. You know, started having experiences with ships in Crestone. Even when we were looking for places in Crestone, we were out here renting, and we rented a hotel. And the next day we had like 3 places to look at, you know, for renting. And the hotel we were sleeping in was like right above the pub. And so they went to like 11:30 at night, and I'm not a drinker or anything, so it's kind of like irritating. But woke up in the middle of the night, like 3:00 in the morning. Everything was dead quiet in the town, and I went and looked out the window, and it's snowing. And this is late in the season. Well, early in the season, maybe it's like September, October. No, when was it? September, October. You know, it shouldn't be snowing this much. And there was elk all through the town. Like there was probably 100 elk, and they were all through the town, and it was snowing like hell.
Wow.
So I went to the bathroom. My wife was sleeping, and I was like, I'm not going to wake her up. You know, she'll see it in the morning. And went back to sleep, woke up in the morning. I was like, babe, you got to look outside. I was like, it snowed. I don't even know if we're going to be able to get anywhere. You know, it was snowing so much.
Yeah.
I opened up the window, and there's no snow out there.
Nothing there.
That was a straight dream. I never even got up that night.
Yeah.
And because it's just weird, you know. There was you know, when you check into a B&B or a place, sometimes, you know, they have a cover on the bathroom, on the toilet. There's still cover on the toilet. I didn't even use the bathroom. Like, so all that like didn't even happen. Like I never even got up and did any of that.
Wow.
And you know, that was our first night ever sleeping in Crestone.
Yeah.
And I just knew I was in, you know, and there's stories about it, you know, that if you look up Crestone, Colorado, you can find all types of stories about weird spiritual vortex. There's a bunch of vortexes that are known around this area, and you know, all types of different UFO stories and stuff originate from this valley. We're near the Great Sand Dunes and Mount Blanca, which is infamous for UFO sightings and stuff. By the way, that video is from this mountain here.
I was going to say, as soon as you mentioned Mount Blanco, do you want me to play the video now then?
Sure, yeah.
So this is your own footage, isn't it?
Yeah. And if there's any questions that we can take care of while we're playing on this, I can't see the chat room.
Oh,
here it is. I see it now.
I was going to say, Nicole can get any questions up if you want.
Okay.
We have one so far. One question. This is from your lane. Drew, so are you in the other reality or just a feeling?
I think we're all in a other reality. I think that we shifted the fifth dimensional space years ago, and I just think now that because everything's about free will in this space and the reality that we're living in right now. So I think part of the test on stepping forward into that reality, which is already here, because I think that's why we're seeing magic happen and different, people are coming up with telekinesis, telepathy, kids in Australia are on YouTube driving cars that are totally blindfold, things like that. I
Yeah.
think the reason why that's happening, I think we're already in the fifth dimensional space. And I think it's a test and a choice for people to step forward and actually step forward into that fourth and fifth dimensional space. So I think we're already here.
Yeah. It's just recognizing it, recognizing that we're here, acknowledging it.
Yeah. And no one's going to tell you, no one's, people are looking for Sky Day to come down on a carpet and, walk out of a desert and say he's here or he or she is here.
Yeah.
I think it's the Christ return, Jesus return or whatever you want to call it is from within. And I think it's individual. It's an individual thing. I don't think it's a collective
just going to say that it's your own perception of it. So whether you're ready for it, I think you have to be ready for it to happen.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
It's just you allowing it to take place, really. Accepting. Right. So I've got the video lined up.
Cool.
So I just might go off screen a minute. So I'll just press play. It's 9:07. Are we going to do the full length video?
No, just we could play it for a few minutes and point out any highlights and stuff on here.
Yeah. Right, cool. Right, I'll start it now. If you need me to pause it, just give me a shout.
Yeah, so this incident happened after a podcast, a late night podcast. It got over at 2:00. Me and the co-host was talking afterwards, and at 2:22, I looked up at my clock and I joked around with her. I was like, Jess, I gotta go. I gotta go inside. I'm gonna see a ship it while I walk inside. And I was just kind of joking around, And my ears start as I was getting my stuff around to walk out. A few minutes later, I walked out of the office and walked down the stairs and walked to my house. And I looked up towards Mount Blanca, and then I seen the first light, and the whole incident lasted over an hour and a half, at least over an hour. And at one time there was over 5 different lights that were present at one time. You can see, you can go to my YouTube, Drew Bankey, and check this out and see the full length of the whole 9 minutes and stuff. But these lights that are in the line down at the bottom, that's a farm. And can you scoot forward in the video?
Yeah, so I'll go. There we go.
Yeah, so here's one. Yeah, there's two. There's two. That's me speaking on the video. But
yeah, I've just put the link up for the video so people can watch the entirety of it. Let me flick forward a little bit again. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so when I first posted this video, people are saying, "Oh, that's Starlink, those line of lights and stuff." I'm like, man, it's like I went through and specifically tried to
there.
Yeah.
Try
to answer all these questions
right above Mount Blanca.
Yeah. You can see the way it's dropping.
Of the mountain.
If it's Starlink, there'd be like a trail of lights across the sky and not coming down.
Yeah. No, whenever someone sees a string of lights in any UFO video now, the first thing they say is Starlink. But they were
Yeah.
talking
And the
about
coyotes howling.
those city lights or the farm lights that are in front of me.
Yeah.
There again.
It's like if you're going to see a starling, you'd see them all in a row, just like a train.
Yeah.
Train carriages. That's what it reminds me of, just lit up in the sky. But this is
There's
different.
my buddy. There's my buddy Crestone Radio in the chat room talking about how we see those. Yeah, this valley is known for this. It's when all this started happening, I started not this, like I haven't reported to MUFON in a long time, but I started reporting to MUFON my first couple incidences that I had in this valley, and the conversation quickly went to consciousness and things like that, and I think that's what it's all about. All these experiences, psychedelic experiences, ceremonial experiences with ships and all this stuff. They all, I think it's all about consciousness. It's all about, it's all something much deeper than lights in the sky and, how ships look and things like that. It's about consciousness. I can tell you fully, like I've had experiences where I saw stuff in the sky and as I had questions about it. And then I also had times where I seen stuff in the sky and I had physical reactions to it. And this video that we just shared, I definitely had physical reactions the whole time watching it. It was hard to catch my breath, a lot of adrenaline flowing. And I've seen a lot of things. Me and my wife seen a mothership that was, probably miles across back in 2019 in Southern Colorado. That was a shared experience me and my wife both had together. Everything stopped as it went above us. We're in the middle of the desert and we were at contact in the desert, which contact in the desert was at Indian Wells, like the city Indian Wells in Southern Colorado, this desert, and all that stuff. So it was a 4-day UFO conference, and I went there from intuition, dreams, and I thought I was supposed to speak there or make contact. I was supposed to make different contacts. I met people there.
Yeah.
So that was the reason I was supposed to go. So the third night of that conference, me and my wife went back to a B&B that we had that was outside the city, but it was facing where the conference was. And we lit up a joint and we were passing it back and forth, and the crickets were like going off, and all the different bugs were like making noises and stuff. Wind was blowing back and forth, and then all of a sudden, like something like hit the mute button, and all the wind stopped. Everything that was making noise stopped, and it was just dead, eerie silence. And I look up, and this like cloud was going over top of us. I saw a line of what I thought was a cloud. It was super dark and super huge. And I was like, that's weird. I was like, maybe it's a really bad thunderstorm. And that's why all these bugs have stopped like chirping and stuff.
Yeah.
And just as we look up, we just see this object go over top of us. And then we see the other side of it. But at first I thought it was a big cloud, but as it went over top of us, I saw it was a craft, but it was just miles and miles across. And as I look up and see it go the other end of it, and I'm starting to realize what it is, like all the crickets and everything just start back. And then I was like, babe, do you see that? And she's like, what the F is that? And we're just like freaking out. And I'm like, if that's a mothership, I was like, what's about to happen? Is something crazy is about to happen. Like we're about to have like this, Independence Day type of thing or something. And looking out, it went over where the conference was. And I'm sure a lot of audience knows Stephen Greer. He was there with a couple other people, and he was doing a CE5 event at the conference when this happened. So the next day we went back to the conference, and all these people are talking about this mothership that come over top of the conference, and there was drones coming out of it. And
Oh,
I
wow.
remember very distinctly, I haven't seen any video of it, but I remember very distinctly there was at least a dozen people that talked about how they had video of these drones coming out. And I I keep searching it on YouTube and different platforms every now and then and see if if these videos ever surface somewhere. But
Yeah.
I've never seen one of them, and it's very eerie for me. But I distinctly remember, there was probably 100 witnesses to those drones coming out, and me and my wife
Wow.
saw it from a distance, and it went over top of us.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, that was a pretty life changing one. I had a face to face encounter near Chaco Canyon in 2018, and um, th- that was that was pretty wild for me.
Wow.
It started. It was anniversary for me and my wife. I think it was our first anniversary, and we decided to go to Chaco Canyon. We was going to hike Chaco Canyon, look at the petroglyphs, things like that. And this is after
Yeah.
been doing the ceremonies for a while, doing sweat lodges, doing the sun dance already, which is the 4 day ceremony without food and water, the piercing on the chest,
Yeah.
no psychedelics or anything. Been doing that already. So we hiked Chaco Canyon, look at petroglyphs all day. Went through walked through all the ruins and everything where you can walk, and went back to the B&B that night, and um, went to sleep. And maybe like 2 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and my ears are just ringing. Very bad tinnitus at the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and very bad tinnitus at the time, and I wake Ella up. She was sleeping. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go outside, smoke a cigarette." And that time I was smoking tobacco,
Yeah.
and walked outside and lit the tobacco. And as I'm walking out the back door to light the tobacco, and as I'm lighting the tobacco, like the ringing like transfers from like my head, my ears, it like goes down to the center of my body and it starts like pulsating out, just
Ooh.
just in those few couple steps. And I lean forward to spit, and the edge of this like balcony, and I spit over the edge of this deck into the yard. And as I lean forward, I look at out of the corner of my eye, I see 2 feet, and they're standing beside me, but they're like 16, 18 inches away from me, but they're facing the same way.
Yeah.
And as I stand up, and this vibration that's in me, just we're talking about like just a few breaths. This is all taking place, just a few
Yeah. Yeah.
milliseconds, but it feels each part of the second, I can just feel myself vibrating more and more and more. And I feel just like it's about to like rip my body apart. And I, I turn towards these feet, and they turn towards me, and I see a shadow. So, I live out in the middle of nowhere. Like,
Yeah.
I live on a homestead. We have solar, and we're far away from the city lights is what you've seen in that video and stuff.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
closest
Yeah.
light. So, I'm not used to being around like city lights and stuff. So I was like, okay, well, it must be a street light behind me. So I turned behind me and looked, and I guess in my mind was just hoping for a street light behind me, so I
Yeah.
could say
Yeah.
it was my shadow. And there was no street light, and I turned back around, and almost like fear, like I turned back around, and my mind's like, okay, what else could it be? And as I turn back around, it starts to open its eyes, and I start to see like stars and galaxies, and just these nebulas and
Yeah.
planets being made as it's opening its eyes in this shadow's eyes. And as it's opening its eyes and I see this, it like pulls my spirit out of my body, and I go flying through its eyes, and then through this space upon space upon space. And I don't, there was a bunch of downloads and information and vibrations that was given to me at that time. And I come back into my body, and um, I almost kind of remember my feet, maybe not like falling to the ground or anything, but I definitely feel like, you feel like you stand up on your tiptoes and then go back down, and your heels hit the
Yeah.
ground.
Yeah.
That's what I felt when I come back into my body, and it like scared the shit out of me. And I'm like and I fully realize like it's this being standing in front of me, and we're just face to face, and I just take off running inside, like straight up terror,
Yeah.
And I lock the door. I go wake up my wife, and I'm like, babe, I was like, I think there's an alien outside or something, I don't know what it is. It's, I told her the whole story, and she's like laughing at me. She's like, you locked the door? She's like, do you think that's going to stop anything? If that thing wants in here, do you think that door is going to stop anything?
Just maybe that'll feel that a little bit safer though. That's what it is, isn't it? It's that little bit of security.
Yeah, for me, I guess. But and she's like, does this surprise you? Does this surprise you at all? And she was like, not surprised or phased by it at all. She was like, just basically a lot of stuff had happened up to that point already, paranormal stuff and ships, shared experiences and stuff already. And so she wasn't really surprised at all. And eventually went to bed and did not go back outside. I think I did go out on the front porch where there was a street light on the front of this place.
Where you knew everything
I
was.
walked out there, turned on all the lights, and end up smoking a cigarette and then come back inside and eventually went to sleep. I think I had to take a shower or take a hot bath that night. It was a process before I finally went to sleep. And next couple days was just me rambling about it nonstop to her until she told me not, she couldn't take it anymore. And then I, stopped talking for a while until I couldn't take it anymore, and then, ramble more about it.
Yeah.
And eventually it like faded. After a couple of days, I just stopped talking about it and kind of stopped thinking about it so much. It just kind of faded away over time. Still thought about it, but not to the intensity like I was.
Yeah.
And then about 2 weeks after that, I had a dream where, it started off where I'm on this other space, or planet or whatever. I don't know where I was at, but then I found myself on this porch, and I recognized the back porch, and I realized real quick what was happening. I was having an experience from the other perspective, and I saw myself, Drew's body come out, light a cigarette, lean forward, cough, spit, and I realized we were one. And I realized that being, we shared a soul space, a vibrational space, like that's a future version of myself that come back to help me jump forward in this body. And I realized a lot more out of that dream than I did that through the actual experience. And I had the same, I've only had that experience where I had the other experience from a dream was the Bigfoot I met in the Uwippi ceremony. I had the exact same experience with that. And that taught me multidimensionality, bilocation, and how our souls, and especially as our conscious grows, we open up to more and more dimensional spaces that we operate in. If we're closed down, living in a 3-dimensional space, 9-to-5 job, 40 hours a week, living paycheck to paycheck, that's very 3D. And you're only having a very limited experience. You're probably only having a 3D experience.
Yeah.
But you're traveling in your dreams and things like that. But as your consciousness, as you openly accept for your consciousness to open up and grow more, you will actually start to realize you are actually living in other places at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, totally get that. Can I just ask a quick question before we move on about this Bigfoot encounter?
Sure.
So this happened inside this room that was all closed off. The windows were covered. There was no light or anything getting in. Like you said, the thunderstorms and the rain and that going on. But with the Bigfoot, did you have direct communication with it, or was it just a sighting, a vision?
No. So the way that started, this is towards the end of the Uwippi ceremony, in this Whippy ceremony, a storm happened. I saw lightning within the building. I had rain within the building. The start of this Whippy ceremony, the sparks started flying in the room from rattles. So they set rattles on the floor, like the medicine man sets, a certain amount of rattles, a few, 6, 7, 8. I don't know what the number is, but here set a bunch of rattles out. And at a certain point, these rattles will start rattling, and they'll start flying around the room, rattling. So in this Whippy ceremony, I was singing in it. So I have my drum and I was actually singing, but in my mind, I was processing all this stuff. I was like, maybe he's got someone to pick up these rattles and walk around the room rattling them. And as soon as that happened, the rattles stopped. Like there was like, maybe a half dozen in the air at one time rattling, and they were sparking, making sparks and rattling at the same time. So they all stopped in one spot, and then they started flying around the room like really, really fast, like hummingbirds is the best way I could describe it. And they were all like flying like back and forth, and they were showing me like there's no way that someone could be moving that fast with them. They'd be knocking into each other or whatever. So it was like that's when it clicked to me as like these spirits can hear my thoughts. Like they know what I'm thinking, because I'm not voicing any of these stuff. It's like, this is what I'm thinking now. And that was the first revelation that really hit me in the Whippy ceremony, that the spirits could hear my thoughts. And then I started realizing they were hearing my thoughts. I was communicating with them through telekinesis. And then I started communicating through them. I'm like, okay, show me something else. Like, show me something else. Show me something else. And it was like, what else you got? And the Bigfoot started off in the corner of the room. It seemed like a spark come from the corner of the room. The spark come in, and it got paired with a rattle. That spark and rattle was coming towards me. And as it got right up within maybe 2 feet of me, it threw the rattle at me. And then when it threw the rattle at me, the rattle hit the wall behind me. And when it threw the rattle, a big lightning bolt like lit up the Bigfoot in front of me, and everything else in the room had stopped, and it was just me and it was not paused. And I was just looking at it, and I had stopped drumming. I just like I dropped my drum, like my drum beater, and my drum was sitting in my lap, and I dropped it. And I was just looking up at it. I could smell it. It was breathing. It was all the way up to the ceiling, and it was like head was like crouched over a little bit because it was too tall for the ceiling. It was like a 10-foot ceiling, and it was just staying in front of me. And then the lightning bolt, it went dark again, and it was gone. Wow. And then had a dream a couple weeks later, same thing, where went through that same, come into the room. I was the Bigfoot, walked up to myself, and really understood. Really not, I shouldn't say understood, but really had a better understanding of how deep shit goes.
Our connection with the phenomena.
Yeah. There's no disconnection from it.
No.
We're all part of it.
We're part of it. We've got to be, because if we weren't, then none of this would be happening. I can't. The words don't exist for what I want to say.
It happens a lot.
It happens every day in normal conversations with anyone. But what I'm trying to say is our connection to the phenomena. It's so frustrating, because inside I know exactly what I want to say, but it's just there's nothing there for it to come out to. I'm not convinced people, but to give that understanding of what it is. Without us, there wouldn't be a phenomena.
Yeah, I think Grant Cameron, he's a great researcher from Canada, a good friend of mine, and he gave me my first big interview back in 2019, and it kind of really, I wouldn't say put me on the map, but, started to put me on the map and stuff, gave me some credibility. And then we did another interview, and then I started my own podcast, had him on my podcast and stuff. And we've been good friends ever since, but he has a way to describe it as, and other people, I don't want to take away from any people that coined the phrase, but there's a contact modality, and psychedelics, Grant has had experiences with psilocybin and the John Hopkins protocols for psilocybin and stuff, which is a very powerful thing, just as powerful as, ayahuasca ceremony or bufo ceremony or anything like that, but very introspective and ultimately outrospective. Once the portals, one thing I like to say, the portals within, there may be portals in the woods and things like that, special things on the earth, but the main portal to get anywhere is within, and understanding your relationship to the stars and stuff like that. But Grant has really understood over the years of the complexity of all this stuff. This is about the conscious evolution of humanity and the conscious evolution of this time. We're going through a biblical or prophetic time in our lifetime. While we're taking breaths on this earth, we're living through a prophetic time. People's done it in the past, and people's going to do it in the future. But what people have to, a lot of people alive right now have to understand, we're going through it as we speak, and need to come to terms with that and start to really dive into what that means. That's why we're having a heightened, the military just started, the governments started to admit in 2017 that we had tic tacs and things like that, and known it for a while. And then we start knowing about these special projects. We're doing remote viewing and working with psychedelics, LSD, and things like that. Working with consciousness. People really need to wake up and really look at the powers to be, not just the United States government, UK government, but all the powers to be of what is really happening right now, and why are they hiding consciousness? Why are they hiding ET contact? There's a lot of whys that need to be answered.
Oh yeah, definitely. But sorry, just quickly, before we went on air, I was saying about like psychedelics, but not just psychedelics. For us to experience these different frequencies in different, like you're saying, like we're in the third dimension. You said like we're stepping into the fifth, but some of it has got to be in the consciousness. So the only way to get into these dimensions is to take specific drugs or chemicals, psychedelics.
No,
I don't know. Or not take them, but experience them for you to get into that, like you said, like a mind portal, to open yourself up, because the other parts of the phenomena aren't visible in our time, in our 3D time. So we can't get there in physical form because it's not possible. We can't physically get into that as a solid object. So we need to go to it a different way. So if you go to it through the mind, where it's your soul or your consciousness, you're going to go and see it and experience it. Just because it's not physical form doesn't mean to say it's not real, but it is happening.
Yeah.
Because it's your consciousness, and that's the main thing of what you are.
I agree with all that, other than the part of you need to ingest a substance, because ayahuasca was my gateway to an awakening. But there's also, near-death experiences. There's spontaneous spiritual experiences. There's breath work. So I don't want to say that psychedelics is everybody. I want to make sure that message is very clear.
Yeah, I didn't mean you should take them. I mean, you need to find a way to release the chemicals to.
Well, you really need to ask yourself, like literally ask yourself, is this right for me? You know,
Yeah.
we all
Oh,
have
yeah,
we
yeah,
have
yeah.
we all have a bullshit detector on the inside, and it's attuned to us, you know, ourselves first. So if we say, okay, do I need this or do I not? You know, I know
Yeah.
like I don't need another ayahuasca ceremony right now. Would it be cool to sit down and, you know, have a night enjoying with friends and playing music and stuff like that? Yeah, it'd be fun, but I don't need
Yeah.
to waste some medicine right now. I don't need that reset right now. You know,
Yeah.
I can balance myself and align my two sacred energies, the masculine and the feminine that make up my being.
Yeah.
I can balance those within my being without ayahuasca right now. I'm not saying
Yeah.
in the future it might not want to be,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know, it's I found the medicines work the best when you have pure intention and really pure of heart.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
I've seen them, you know, give people hard times in ceremonies too, but I've always seen like when people are pure of heart and really come into the medicine for pure healing and stuff like that. The medicine is very compassionate, especially ayahuasca. She's healing. You know, she's ultimately the vibration of Mother Earth.
Yeah.
She's the same ring as the Earth that we're on, which is you know, we're a product of both. Our being right now is a product of both.
Yeah.
We're part Earth and we're part sky. We're part you know, Father Sky. We're part Mother Earth and we're part Father Sky. And that could
Yeah.
be no more true. You know, we're part spiritual. There's electrical impulses in our bodies, things like that. That's
Yeah.
proven science, like, you know, and you know, things like the Monroe Institute, remote
Yeah.
viewing, those are real things. I've experienced things like that. I hope, you know, our conversation has triggered people that experiences the same thing to start to expand on what they experience, you know. And if
Yeah.
you haven't, I hope our this conversation and what we talked about today, I hope it induces an experience that you can have it on your own. So you know, because I can talk all day about what's happened to me,
Yeah.
but until it happens to you, that then it's really life changing. You know, there's moments that you can't never change, and those change the trajectory of your life. But there's real magic out there. There's real spirituality. There's real energy, you know, and it's all real. And I think it's the main thing is about expanding our consciousness. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I realized like after seeing ships and things like that, being in the presence of seeing a ship, you know, it changed the vibration in my body. You know, I had a vibration each time I've had experiences, and I realized like just being in the presence of it and witnessing it, it had some type of it did something to me.
Yeah. Can I just backtrack a little bit on what I just said? Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't mean you take them. I mean, I was just thinking about it while you were saying that. To go inside yourself, and like you said, find out what works for you, even if it's meditation. Because I do a lot of meditation. It helps. It does help a lot with everyday life. But it's going inside yourself to find out what's going to work, so you can get to that place where you need to be, and then you go from there.
It's okay, mate. I ain't a pisser.
This question stone is pretty.
Did I say that right? Did I say that right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you have that.
No, I'm not a pisser at all, man. Like I don't. It doesn't bother me. I always
No,
like to
it's still, it's like the way you
always-
said it. It's like go out and get wrecked on whatever class A's that you want. I didn't mean it like that. It's
No,
just
I
finding
didn't
your
think that
own.
at all. I didn't
Just
think that at
finding
all.
your own place.
I just always use moments to highlight different things that I feel is important, and especially with psychedelics. You know, it's my message is I always try to make it real clear. You know, this is not for everybody. You know,
No.
because it's not. It's not.
Yeah,
And
totally get that.
but it's definitely for me. You know, and it's definitely for a lot of other people. And you know, the ultimate question is you have to ask yourself, like, and you have to be real with yourself, like, is this medicine for me? And luckily we're in a time where, you know, laws and public viewpoint is in a rapid transition on how they view psychedelics, which is it's awesome. You know, we live in Colorado. We legalized mushrooms and DMT and mescaline in January 1st of this year. So we have a very unique opportunity where we live at to work with these in a therapeutic setting, and we've been doing a lot of good. I had people coming out from spiritual seeking to really needing a reset right now, and all the in between. So
Excellent, thank you. Well, when I come to America, I know where I'm going to move. Colorado, straight away. Not that I've ever done any of that, by the way, just to let everyone know. But it's there for the taking.
You got a lot ahead of you. You can look at it two ways. You could be scared of it, or you could be like, wow, I have a lot of things to experience.
Yes, I think that one. I think it's that one. Right.
Yeah.
We've got a load of questions for you. Is that all right? I think we might hit the 90-minute mark, but it's good.
We can go over. I don't care.
Yeah.
I got to, like I said, I got this big in-person podcast coming up. I'm nervous about it. So the more we talk,
this is good. So due to, because I've not heard Daryl speak yet.
He hasn't.
I thought he was speaking before, but I can't see past the mustache. I can't see if his lips are moving or not.
He's got on a little digital recorder. He just keeps playing it back.
Goodbye, country.
Oh, trim that up for you a little bit.
Yeah. So do you want to rotate the questions between you two?
I can't see no questions.
I'll put it up.
How convenient, Daryl.
Here you go, Daryl. Here's a question.
Who we go first? So Drew from Woo. Was it Woo?
Derek. It's called Derek.
What?
His real name's Derek. It's easier.
All right, Derek. Here's a question. Derek. Can you tell if there is any danger with, I don't want to mess this up, a US cup?
Ayahuasca. It's missing an H. The second Y should be an H, and it would be spelled exactly correct. But for sure. I'll all the time. There's a ayahuasca is one of the 5 major spirits that preside over Earth on a healing level and things like that. Ultimately, it's I feel it's the vibration of Mother Earth is ayahuasca. That's what's the ultimate spirit is. What I've come to learn. So, people that have certain mental illnesses, we've had experiences, especially in the early years, where we've had instances where people had negative experiences with the medicine and stuff like that. So that had some mental illness that they weren't sharing with us. So everything's a learning lesson, and that in turn helped us to make different protocols and stuff like that for our intake and pre-screening for ceremonies and things like that. But ayahuasca is definitely dangerous. You got to be ready to see what you're going to see, and sometimes people ain't ready for what they think they are. But ultimately, if you're drinking the medicine, it's your time to drink the medicine, whether you believe it or not, whether your perspective is it or not, it's happening. So therefore it's meant to be, and that's the way I ultimately see all instances, but I asked the question a lot, is there such thing as a bad trip? And now there is not a bad trip. It's all because things that I perceived as a bad trip or hard ceremonies and stuff like that, when I look back at them after, a time, sometimes years after a ceremony, I look back at them and I realize what was actually being tried to communicate. Ultimately myself, the universe, or myself trying to communicate with myself. And I realized what was trying to be communicated. So, but definitely know if you are thinking about doing ayahuasca, this is just a disclaimer, whether it be with me or anyone else, make sure you feel your person out, who's serving your medicine, ask where your medicine come from, ask what gives you the right to serve this medicine, and do your research. A lot of people that do ceremonies now, they have reviews online and stuff like that. Look at what other people are saying about these people and their ceremonies. If if you're seeing a lot of people saying they wound up in, you know, a mental hospital after doing a ceremony with someone, you might not want to go to them. Go, you know, keep on looking. So
Yeah.
but
I'm
just
guessing you ain't going to find any reviews on TripAdvisor, are you?
no,
Not intended.
TripAdvisor.
I realised as I said it.
but
Good. I
that
like
was a good
it.
one. But in the UK, I will suggest someone. In the UK, my teacher Renato Guerrero, look him up on YouTube. And people in the UK, he stays there. I think he's over there right now. Actually, you can look him up, Renato Guerrero, and he's my teacher, my friend, you know, my brother, star brother from another mother from another planet, and he does a lot of the similar work that I do. You know, I do a lot of alchemy work and turning on people and things like that.
Cool. Thank you for that. Nicole,
Questions, hit me.
Come on, Nicole, chop.
All right, next one. Sorry.
It's all right. I'll put it on. Oh, done it. There we go.
I was doing it.
All right. Just checking.
This one's from Joe. So the source you speak of, is it like Mother Earth type of thing, or is it a God type of thing? The source.
I think both. You know, I think source is a combination of all. You know, so this happened around 2018, I think it was, where I had a spontaneous moment of oneness, where I was talking to someone. We were driving, and I was driving, and my wife was sitting in the passenger seat. There's a guy sitting in the back seat, and the guy sitting in the back seat had done ceremonies with me and was going through some pretty crazy stuff. And I was talking to him. I was just trying to counsel him, you know, and I'm like driving through traffic in Southern Florida. And as I look in the back seat, I see myself. I see like myself sitting in the back seat, and the world starts shaking. It's like an earthquake, but everything, like the air, everything is shaking. So I was like, shit, I gotta pull into a parking lot. So I pull into this like parking lot, and luckily I made it to where we were going. But I pulled into this parking spot and stopped. And as soon as I stopped, I'm sitting there, I'm looking down at my hands, I'm just vibrating like really hard, and to the point where, you know, it's making me uncomfortable. But as I look out, and there's this lady walking across this parking lot, and she's carrying this purse. And I was like, drop the purse. And I don't know what in me like said that. I was like, drop the purse. And I just seen it before it happened, or I'm not sure if I made it happen or seen it before it happened. Yeah. Whatever it is, that when she dropped her purse, that bag hitting the ground, I went out. It was white out. Like, wow. I was sitting in the driver's seat of the car off and everything, with that bag hitting the ground. And as soon as I seen it like open up, like just like I saw and knew it was going to do, it was white out. And I see this like black dot off in the distance, and I start going towards this black dot. And as I get closer to this black dot, I see it's like not a black dot. It's like this ball of energy. It just looks like, it kind of looks like a round magnet, but on the outside, just energy and just all this stuff. And it starts like glowing, and it starts speaking to me. And it said, do you know who I am? I said, of course I know who you are. It said, who I am? I said, God. And it said, no. And it said, I'm source. I'm the source of all existence, and you are the creator through the power of manifestation. And that's like one of the first things that of my book, my first book that I talk about, was that first word from source that spoke to me. And it said, do you want to, I hear you want to experience what it is to be me. And it said, step in, if you trust me, step inside me. And I said, of course I trust you. It said, there's one more question. Do you trust yourself? It said, if you trust yourself, then step inside and be me and become source, or come to the throne, basically the throne room or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and then I went into that moment, and, you know, I had a question whether I trusted myself and stuff. I was like, well, you know, I used to be an addict. I used to be a drunk. Maybe I wasn't a great dad. I definitely wasn't a great husband, blah, blah, blah. I did all these things in Iraq. But I started seeing, no matter what I tried to think about bad about me, I saw myself doing all these different ceremonies and what my real intention was in my heart in that moment and stuff like that. So that's when I was like, okay, I trust myself. So I stepped inside and I was, gave up my form. I knew
Yeah.
if I stepped inside that source, my body would die. Like that's the way I was being shown all this
Yeah.
stuff. But I would be source and I could fix everything. But as soon as I got into that source, I realized that everything was already in line. Everything was balanced. Even though my perception of, the world was off, or there was too much war or this or that in the world, uh, you know, everything that I perceived as wrong, it all balanced, something else balanced it out somewhere else. And I see the whole thing as just a symphony that was just perfection.
Yeah.
And I realized and like me as source kind of laughed, and I was like, ha ha ha, that's why nobody's here. It's like, that's why nobody's here in this room, because it's all one. It's, you see, I saw, Ram Dass talked about of having a moment that was similar to this when he OD'd on LSD in the Mid America Hotel back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And he talks about a very similar experience where he saw all people on the planet as his children, and he wept in pain for. And that's exactly what happened to me in this moment. This is before I ever heard that.
Yeah.
But this is exactly what happened to me. I saw everybody on the planet as my own, and I saw them all as my children, and I wanted to help them. But I could not change anything because everything was connected to something else. Everything that was happening was connected to something else. No matter whether the death, there's 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 mourning that comes from death. There's
Yeah.
great lessons that come from death. Even the most horrific shit. There's lessons that come from it, and the people that it affects, exudes out and out and out. Especially if it's a really traumatic event, it affects even more people. So
Yeah.
that one incident, I just saw how everything was connected. So I asked to come back, said, what should I do now? It said, you could sit here till eternity if you want, or you can go back into experience. And I said, what experience can I have? It said, you can do anything, your source at this moment. So you literally can do anything you actually want,
Yeah.
and I could go back into, I could be an eagle. I could be this, that, the other. I went through all these things and realized I'd already done them or was already doing them. And said, I asked, what hasn't been done, what's something that needs done. It said, take this experience back and go back into your form that you were before, and you're going to be able to articulate it, share it, and help people. And so I understood that there was going to be a lot more people than me go through that. I wasn't the only one going through this experience, but I was to go back and share that experience, and just to let people know like what source really is. Source is, so to answer that question, the source is the combination of everything there is all around us that can be seen and not.
Yeah.
And, I asked you to remind me about the dog whistle thing.
Got it right down.
Dogs can hear a whistle that we can't. Does that mean that whistle and that noise is not there? Hell no. It's still there, but it's on a different plane than what our ears are tuned to. Short, quick story. We were in South Florida. I was doing ceremonies back to back to back to back for a bunch of people, a bunch of ayahuasca ceremonies. I've been down there for like 3 weeks, done like 20 ceremonies for people. Every time I serve the medicine, I drink the medicine as well. So I'm going through a mini ceremony every time I'm doing it too. So in between these ceremonies, we went over to a friend's house, lives in South Florida by Cape Coral, Fort Myers area. They had a bunch of dogs. One of them, they just got a new pit bull and it was training them. So they had a dog collar on it. And this lady kept hitting the button, and I kept hearing this and this really loud, like squeaky noise. And it took me about 4 or 5 times. Finally, I'm like, what are you hitting on that? What is that noise? And it's a frequency that only dogs can hear. When nobody else could hear it, I could hear it because I was so close in between ceremonies. My natural stuff was tuned up to a different setting, and I could hear I could hear that dog whistle when no one else could. And yeah, it's just things like that. You know, I've had a million things happen like that, you know.
Yeah. That's see, I like stuff like that. It's just so interesting and makes you want to dig deeper. So yeah, it's good.
Next question, Daryl, you reading this one?
Yes,
see
he
it.
is. He can now.
There's a lot of people have poltergeist activity after UFO cryptid experiences. Have you had anything like that?
Yes. I don't know if you would call it a poltergeist, but a few years ago, I had a nephew commit suicide, and it hit me really hard. I was actually in the delivery room when he was born. I was 12 years old, almost 13 years old when he was born, very close with my sister, and demanded to be in the delivery room when he was born. So I was there in the delivery room when he was born. He didn't have much of a dad in his life, so he joined the military because of me, things like that. And actually lived in Colorado, only a few hours away. So this happened a few years ago. My sister calls me up one morning. She's like, "You need to go over to his house. He committed suicide in the just a few hours ago."
Yeah.
So I took off racing over there, and I'm sitting there, and we've had a few things like that happen to our close family, both me and Ella, and we're very open about it because it's part of our story. But it hit me really hard because I have people, fly from all over the United States and sometime out of the country flying in to do ceremonies and stuff like that. And we're helping them, kick their suicidal habits. And then we had things like this, like plague our family for a while. It was really hitting me hard. Anyways, fast forward a couple weeks after he tried to commit suicide, I had a retreat booked, and I had people coming out. Like I had people, probably like 5 or 6 people coming out. People to pay deposits and stuff, half down deposits and stuff like before they came. So I'm just like going through all this like anxiety of these people coming out, and I need to get right. I need to get my mind right before they get out here. I need to recenter myself. So I kind of went outside one night and looked at the stars. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And I was given a message to go take a peyote button, go out into the desert. I had a little spot out there in the desert, have my wife drop me off out there and be alone without my phone, no water, no food, just me and that peyote button and a rattle, and some tobacco or something like that. Well, I did that, and I went out there, and I'm thinking my nephew's talking to me, spiritually, this, that, and the other. And things are happening. Some wild horses come up in the middle of the night to my camp and stuff. And just some weird stuff happened. And one time I see the smoke come out and of the fire, and it hits the ground, and it comes up and it forms an angel, like right in front of me. And it's just me and the fire and this. And I'm like, Blake, and the wind blows it out. My nephew's name, Blake Bankey. Rest in peace, brother. Love you. Wow. And as it's starting to get, I know it's going to start, the sun's going to come up soon, and my Ella's going to be picking me up soon. I was looking at the fire, and I was like, Blake, if that was you, if you can hear me, I was like, I'm going to take a walk before as the sun's coming up. I'm going to walk down to the river. I said, leave an antler shed in between, a deer antler shed in between me and the river. It's only like not a far walk in between me and it. I was like, leave an antler shed in between me and that river. And a couple minutes later, I start walking towards the river. Halfway to the river, I find an antler shed. I drop to my knees and just lose it, and it was very healing for me to know that he's still there. Yeah. And, even though I can preach all this stuff, like, can I live it? When it happens to me directly, can I live it? Yeah. So, if you want to call that poltergeist, but I think, it's all connected, the poltergeist things, I think if you're, I've said this many times before, and if you're having a UFO experience or a poltergeist experience or a experience with a ghost or something like that, that is another part of yourself. That is another part of your soul space and your soul's essence. That is essentially you on a different vibrational field. So don't ever be, take away the fear of it and try to figure out the message behind it.
No, thank you for that. Next question. Do you want me to do this one? No, I'll let you do it. I can't read that. Go on. Oh, God. Right, this is from Brian.
Has Drew experienced... Okay, go ahead. Are you going to read it?
Has Drew experienced a Kundalini awakening?
Perfect.
Yes.
You did it.
Did it? I don't even know what that is, but I said it.
Yeah, I have. Definitely in ayahuasca ceremonies. Before I knew how to channel the energy that's coming through me in ayahuasca ceremonies, it's been a process. I've been doing ceremonies ever since 2016, up until a few years ago, pretty regularly. But, there's a time when in ceremony, you feel like you're a pendulum, and it's an energy that's going through you naturally anyways. People that do Reiki healing or anything like that, or that works with a pendulum on an energetic level, if they use pendulums to show like blockages on chakra points or things like that, or dowsing rods can be used to find blockages on chakra points or meridian points. There's a chakra point, the main energy line that runs north and south through our body, our spinal cord, crown chakra, throat chakra, so on and so forth. But from there, we have a cross section of a meridian point that goes from the center of your hand, goes down your arm, crosses at your belly button, your sacral chakra. The reason your sacral chakra or your sacred chakra is located underneath your belly button is because that's where the portal is, where you come into this earth. You come through the umbilical cord. You kind of split spirit with your mother and your father, made this one spirit, and it traveled through umbilical cord. And so that's why your sacral chakra is your belly button, but it crosses your sacral chakra and goes to your left foot. So my right hand, if we're talking about negative and positive battery, just for the sake of this argument, we're calling it negative and positive battery terminals. This would be a positive terminal. It would go down, cross, and so your right hand and left foot would be connected on positive terminals. Your negative terminals would be your left hand and your right foot. So that's how your meridian points are crossed like that. That's how Reiki healers use. They know that, and they can push energy, but that energy is a circle. That's why we see this in petroglyph sites and archaeological sites all over the planet. That's the Fibonacci sequence. That's the energy that's coming off all beings. That's all material really has this energy, and it's a manifestation energy from the source of the universe. But as essentially that's what a Kundalini awakening does. It combines, your body becomes one with that vibration. And I've had that happen several times in ayahuasca ceremonies.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Definitely.
Cool.
Right.
All right. Next one.
Daryl.
One thing to add on that. People that have Kundalini awakenings and things like that, I have experienced several times. I know other people have too, that sometimes you feel like your cell phone's in your pocket and it's on vibrate, only to come find out your cell phone's not in your pocket. Your root chakra, will be vibrating so hard you'll mistake it for a phone being in your pocket. I've experienced this, and this is a very common experience with a Kundalini awakening when it's first happening, because it's Kundalini awakening, it has to work through blockages. It has to open up each chakra point to allow energy to go through that. And that process sometimes can feel kind of weird.
Yeah. Just quickly then, because I've had that sensation before. So can you have that experience naturally without knowing about it?
Well, yeah, anything can happen. You could, I guess you got to define naturally, is it,
Oh,
did you,
just
did you,
going around normal day-to-day stuff.
it could happen anywhere. You could be in a, just like we have a chakra system and a meridian lines and stuff, so is the earth. You could be in a certain point on the earth. You could be around a certain person that's a shaman or intuitive or something like that you don't know about, and it could trigger that. You could be around, you could be close to a soulmate that you don't know about, or something, or someone that you've had an experience with in another lifetime or another dimension, and your root chakra starts to vibrate.
That used to happen quite a lot. Like, and I mean, like all the time, like 2-3 times a day.
But
it's not
but
happened.
now it's open. Now you've cleared the blockage,
right,
and now energy's flowing
that makes
freely.
sense.
You've cleared the blockage. I'm sure that you've went through, during that process, you probably went through grief. You learned how to grieve in a different way. You learned how to look at death in a different way. You probably lost, very close loved ones that now you see in a very different light. So you've processed the blockage. We're getting into how I heal now. I ask people where they're having pain at, things like that. If you can tell me where if you're having pain in your chest, heart chakra. You having pain in your throat chakra. You having pain in your ass, root chakra. And wherever chakra's point is, I have a list in my head of different ailments that are associated with that chakra point.
Right, got you.
So you're at risk for colon cancer. You're at risk for lower intestinal cancer, things like that, because you had a blockage on your root chakra. That's why males have a very high percentage of lower cancers and things like that, reproductive cancer, testicular cancer, things like that. These are all associated with the energy point of the root chakra.
Right.
Root chakra sickness is literally, you're not expelling things, you're not emotionally processing things. Just like, so the root chakra's job on an energetic level is to excrete. This is where we let go of things. Just like it's our root chakra letting go of things on the toilet. It's the same thing on the energetic level. We are not supposed to grieve forever. We are not supposed to step into a grieving process and take it on an identity. It's supposed to be a moment. We're supposed to learn from it, and we're supposed to dive into it. We're supposed to go through the crying. We're supposed to go through the resentment. We're supposed to go through all the things that we're supposed to go through with it. And then that's why a lot of males, because they don't know how to emotionally let go of things. Right. Especially with grieving. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Women that have, breast cancer, things like that, that's probably they've got molested or something like that. Maybe not in this lifetime or another one, but that's an energetic signature that's like on their breasts. And what a lot of people think, even females, like that's a part of their sexuality, their breasts. So that's why they have things happen there. So every single point especially cancers. A cancer is, I would be willing to say, and go as far to say, that all illnesses have an energetic signature, but especially cancers. Cancers are a buildup of unprocessed energy or trauma.
Yeah. Yep. No, thank you for that. Next question, Daryl. Go.
What use is this experience to the great good?
I think I just covered that over the past 5 minutes. Understand how energy works, and bringing back, or not even bringing back, just reminding people of all these things. I'm not talking about anything new. Like, this is all stuff that's been known about, been used. It's only over the past, 50 years or so that we've shied away from, and these have been demonized or called woo woo, things like that. Like, but these, energy work, things like that is real medicine. And the reason it's been demonized is for, the pharmaceutical industry and, modern medicine. I think there's a place for modern medicine, just like there's a place for everything. If I break my bone, I don't want someone to bring out some sage and burn some sage over my broken leg. I want someone to take me to the ER and give me a Percocet and, and reset it. But there's a time and place for modern medicine. But I think, modern medicine has stepped forward and saying, it can do everything. There's a lot of things that energy work, your intention and stuff like that can help. It can save lives, There's a Joe Monanego. He teaches at the Monroe Institute. He's a well-known remote viewer. He has, in a recent interview he did on the Sean Ryan show a few months ago, he was talking about how he had some people, I think for the CIA or something like that, some government agency, bring him an envelope and there was grid coordinates, like latitude and longitude, written on the outside of a manila envelope. He basically put his hand on that manila envelope and spent some time with it without opening it, and recorded a bunch of stuff that he saw, and told the people at the end. He said he was seeing pyramids. He was seeing people in the pyramids that was laying in stasis, like in a sleeping state and things like that. Blah blah blah. And they left a manila envelope, and as he was walking out, he's like, "Can you open it?" He's like, "Yeah, once we walk out the door, you can open it." He opened it, and on the inside, all it was written on the inside was Mars, 1 million BC. Wow. And so he was remote viewing Mars 1 million BC and found pyramids and things like that. So when the question comes up, what good is all this? Like, man, it's everything, it's everything.
Yeah. Thank you. Next question from Joanne. Do you want to do it, Nicole?
Sure. Do you think psychedelics can help with chronic pain?
Absolutely. Psychedelics is a vibrational medicine. Ultimately, each different psychedelic has a different vibrational code that it has, like a different frequency that it vibrates at. And, I believe that all illnesses, like I just said just a minute ago, are trauma based and ultimately vibrationally based. If I yell at you in an angry manner, or if I have an intention in an angry manner of something I'm saying to you, it's imprinted on your body until you let go of it, and I think that's true on a lot of things. I talk about our pledge of allegiance, like the vibrational code of our pledge of allegiance. Like, I think it's designed to channel energy and vibration back to a government or a powers to be, really something that's above the government. But it's our pledge of allegiance in the United States is designed to channel energy back to the same people that are making our rules, our cages, and everything. So in turn, they're tricking us to make our own cages. They're taking our power from us. They're farming our manifestation energy every time that someone says any pledge or anything like that. People talk about words are very powerful, spells and things like that. Like, it's very true. Like, and if you say a mantra over and over and over again, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Like, if you're in America, you understand how deep that goes. Like, people will kill you over a piece of fabric, and that's not why I went to Iraq. People say, "Oh, you're a veteran, that's not unpatriotic, this, that, and the other." No, I'm just speaking the truth.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Really appreciate it. We've got 4 more questions. I don't think we're going to fit them all in. So
Let's do it. Let's get them all.
6 minutes more to get them done. So, right, next one. Fred Flintstone.
I have to run in a few because I have an investigation tonight. So
that's cool. Right, could transcendental. Yes.
Transcendental.
That meditation achieve the same results as psychedelics?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Right. Next one then. What are Drew's thoughts on mushroom gummies? Are these good for effect?
Depends on how many you take. Like,
Oh yeah, I suppose. Yeah, if you take a full bag, you're gonna be somewhere else.
Yeah, it's mushrooms. I work with mushrooms a lot too. They're beautiful, and anything like that. Anything to get you out of yourself, whether it be any psychedelics or a cold plunge. Really, it's about getting you in the moment, and that's ultimately that's what it's about. It's about making you not think about who's texting you, how many likes you're getting on Instagram right now, who cut you off on the way there. Is to get you in the moment. That's why cold plunge is effective, because you ain't thinking about nothing else but that cold water you're in. And that's why I have horses, and I have a mule that I ride and stuff. When you're riding that mule, you ain't thinking about nothing else. I'm not thinking about my flight tomorrow. I'm gonna take a ride this evening, just because I want to clear my mind and be in the moment. And because you can't afford to think about anything else. Like, you're on, 1,200-pound animal. Like, you can't afford to think about anything else. So it's about being in the moment.
Yeah, takes everything else away from you, and you've just got you, and that's it.
Yeah. Psychedelics have a really, really good design to get you in the moment, but there's a million ways.
Yeah. No. Cheers. This is from Derek. Question for Drew: does he think if humanity could see the whole light spectrum, that it would treat people out? Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's why we're being. I think that's why things happen when you're ready.
Yep.
And your foundation keeps getting bigger. You have a house. If you own a house and it keeps getting bigger, your foundation has to get bigger to accommodate a bigger house. It's no different. You want to. That's why I tell people, I'm glad that it went to progress like it did. I'm glad I didn't smoke 5-MeO DMT first before ayahuasca. I'd done ayahuasca for a while before I ever tried 5-MeO, because 5-MeO is a source, vibration.
Right.
It gives you a very godlike moment. And I'm glad that I had a foundation with the spirits, understood the spirits a lot better before I did that 5-MeO, before I seen the world in a much. I'm glad that I had, a foundation for my understanding could set on. And I think that's why the disclosure is going the way it is. Ultimately, I think the relationship between ET and all these poltergeists and everything, it's another version of us. It's a future, past, present, or future, whatever you want to look at it. It's another version of ourselves. And I think that's going to be the hardest pill for people to swallow. That, I asked ayahuasca very, very soon. One of my first ceremonies, I was like, when is disclosure going to happen? It said disclosure will happen when people learn to look in the mirror. And, that's a hard pill to swallow, that the ETs that you've been looking at the whole time is actually you. And if you look at scientific proof, there's actually scientific proof that each and every one of us has codes from stars. We actually have evidence that from stars, each and every one of us. Like, this is not, it's not a question. This is actually a fact. Like, you can research it. But so we are from the stars. Like, we are connected to the stars. We are from the stars. And there's a few star groups that are particularly incarnated right now in physical form on this planet. One of them is Orion star system. Is a lot of people, a lot of stars and consciousness ideas that was from the Orion star system is incarnate in human form at this time.
Ah, thank you. That's so interesting. That really is. I need to look into that, I think. Definitely. Right. Last question, because we've got like 30 seconds left. So Daryl?
Knowing that some people medically are unable to use Honska, you have
Ayahuasca.
other methods to take people through therapy, and I screwed that up.
Sure. Yeah. Just, we work with different medicines other than ayahuasca. So, psilocybin is very forgiving, works good with addiction, things like that. With ayahuasca, you have to, be off certain medications and things for a certain amount of time. Psilocybin is a little bit easier to work with on things like that. That's why it's good for people with addictions, things like that maybe can't get off of certain pills for 30 days or things like that. Psilocybin would be an answer, but we have sweat lodges and other ceremonies too. So yeah, we have definitely several different ways to go after trauma.
Excellent. Well, we are at the 2-hour mark. Thank you so much, Drew, for coming on. There's so much to take in on this.
Yeah.
There's no way we could have got this in 90 minutes. Not a chance. I don't even think we've scraped the surface, have we? Not even close.
Nope. No. There's a lot to talk
Yeah.
about. There's still questions.
There's got to be a part 2, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to talk about, a lot I love to share about,
Yeah.
There's just tons to share about.
But I love how you go into the detail of it and how you've experienced it. So you're not just preaching it, you've been there, you've done it, you've gone back, you've done it again, you're teaching it, and you're still doing it while teaching.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of credit there, definitely. So thank you so much for coming on. Absolute pleasure.
I appreciate it. Follow me on social, Drew Bankey. A lot of you can find just by looking up my name. Reality shows, Homestead Rescue on Discovery Channel, season 11, episode 1. That's it featured our homestead here. You can check it out. That's on Discovery Channel, Discovery Go. We're talking with them about doing a second episode.
Cool.
So that's exciting. Leaving for New York tomorrow to be on the Ian Bick podcast, the Locked In podcast. So in 2023, he was in the top 20 podcasts on Apple. And so, really looking forward for that. And he's never had a UFO guy on his show, so I'm ready to blow his mind.
Go.
So.
Yeah. Just go in and blow everyone's mind. That's all you got to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So good luck for tomorrow. Hope the flight, you have a safe flight, and you have a great time in the podcast.
Yeah.
So,
I'm really looking forward to shoot me some dates and we'll set something up.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll send some across over the weekend. I'm actually off work for the next 2 weeks, so I've got quite a lot of time to catch up on everything.
Nice.
So it's all good. Right, we are going to have to stop this now, unfortunately. So thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you for your questions. Sorry we couldn't do them all. There's no way we was ever going to get through them. And even with quick firing them, we still didn't do it. So that's it for today. Monday is that Monday Face, pre-record with myself and Umbra Man.
You usually say that happy
Got it
face.
right. I actually got it right, and I've not wrote it down. And I named it. So yeah. So that's at 8:30 on Monday. I am starting the paranormal road trip on Monday as well. So there are going to be a few live streams and bits and pieces that I'm going to be throwing on Facebook and YouTube. And that's going to go from Monday through to the following Tuesday with a couple of days off towards the end of the week. So other than that, I'll be putting updates up on YouTube on the community page. So if you just go on there, you'll see plenty of stuff. So massive thank you for everyone in the chat. Thank you for everyone who's supporting the channel. And that's it. In fact, thank you, Daryl and Nicole, for coming on and helping me out. Do appreciate it. Safe flight tomorrow. Hope everything goes well, and definitely speak to you soon. So I'm going to bing you all off now with the intro. Outro. Okay. Knew we'd get something wrong. So that's it. See you in the chat on Monday, if not before. Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care. Goodbye.